It was a week of momentous decisions, all affecting the future of the region. Israel's parliament moved to advance sovereignty over Judea and Samaria in a symbolic vote that could reshape the Middle East. French President Macron says France will recognize Palestine as a state, and the U.S. is cutting short Gaza ceasefire talks and bringing its negotiating team home from Doha. Meanwhile, humanitarian aid piles up on Gaza's doorstep. Chuck Holton has the latest on these items and more.
In a move that could have major implications for the future of the region, Israel's parliament Wednesday passed a symbolic resolution calling for the full application of sovereignty over Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. While the vote has no immediate legal effect, it signals growing momentum within the ruling coalition to formalize control over the biblical heartland.
The Knesset approved a historic declaration to apply full Israeli sovereignty over our homeland, Judea and Samaria.
More than 700,000 Jewish Israelis now live in those areas, while nearly 3 million Palestinians remain under Israeli military law. The motion follows last year's resolution opposing a Palestinian state and could mark a turning point in Israeli policy. While eyes remain on Judea and Samaria, Gaza continues to dominate international headlines. Israeli officials say they're doing everything possible to get aid to civilians, but accuse Hamas of blocking deliveries and the United Nations of refusing to cooperate.
Let me start with the facts and not the fiction. In Gaza today, there is no famine caused by Israel. There is, however, a man-made shortage engineered by Hamas. Now, too often, the full story is not being told. This suffering exists because Hamas has created it.
He noted aid is delivered through two channels: the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has delivered tens of millions of meals to civilians, and UN-coordinated shipments of raw materials delivered to Gaza bakeries and communal kitchens. President Isaac Herzog visited Gaza Wednesday to inspect military progress and the humanitarian situation.
We are acting here according to international law, providing humanitarian aid according to international law, and those trying to sabotage the humanitarian efforts are Hamas and its people who are spinning this to prevent our forces from dismantling infrastructures that could harm us and our citizens.
Despite over 950 aid trucks cleared and ready for distribution inside Gaza, the United Nations continues to refuse to work with the IDF. Israeli officials say the UN is more invested in bashing Israel than feeding hungry Gazans. Meanwhile, the IDF has concluded an internal investigation into last week's strike on Gaza's only Catholic church. They say the building was hit by a misfired artillery shell caused by a technical malfunction, not a targeted attack. But that hasn't stopped recent accusations that Israel is persecuting Christians.
There is no crisis. Where there is a crisis is that the pro-Hamas movement are trying to engineer a crisis. This is purely an engineered crisis. We take our relationship with the Christian community extremely seriously. Israel is the only country where the number of Christians are increasing. It's the only country in hundreds of miles in any direction where Christians are free to practice their faith freely without restrictions.
Outside Gaza, regional tensions remain high. An Iranian Navy helicopter confronted the USS Fitzgerald after it neared Iranian waters in the Gulf of Oman. The aircraft reportedly issued a warning before the destroyer threatened to shoot it down, the first confrontation since the 12-day war ended mid-June. The United States is cutting short Gaza ceasefire talks and bringing its negotiating team home from Qatar after what it calls a disappointing response from Hamas.
While the mediators have made a great effort, Hamas does not appear to be coordinated or acting in good faith. We will now consider alternative options to bring the hostages home and try to create a more stable environment for the people of Gaza. It is a shame that Hamas has acted in this selfish way.
That announcement came just hours after French President Emmanuel Macron said France will recognize Palestine as a state. Israel slammed the move, calling it dangerous and diplomatically irresponsible. At the same time, Israeli officials are reacting strongly to what they're calling a blatant act of anti-Semitism in Spain, after more than 50 French Jewish teens were removed from a flight in Valencia after allegedly singing in Hebrew. And to push back against growing international criticism over humanitarian conditions in Gaza, Israel's military gave journalists a tour of the Gaza side of the Kerem Shalom crossing, where officials showed aid totaling a week's worth of food for everyone in Gaza, all awaiting distribution by the UN.
The state of Israel doesn't limit the trucks of aid coming to Gaza Strip. The main issue or the main problem is the collection and distributing issue.
The colonel said Hamas is using hunger as a weapon in the court of public opinion, intentionally starving its people.
They sending people to interfere, and they are doing that in order to build a picture of a crisis, of a chaos, of a problem in the humanitarian aid. That's false. 4,500 trucks in the last 2 months entered Gaza Strip and distributed to the people.
We're looking at literally millions of meals that are sitting out here in this parking lot just inside the border fence of Gaza that could be feeding the people inside Gaza, but the United Nations doesn't want to distribute it because that would mean having to work together with the IDF to get the job done. And it makes you wonder if that means the United Nations would rather bash Israel than feed the hungry. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
The world watched in horror over the last 10 days as Syrian Druze communities were massacred. In an effort to quench the carnage, Israel launched airstrikes on military targets in Syria. We asked Israelis what they thought about Israel helping the Druze.
Do you think Israel should be helping the Druze community now?
Of course, the Druze have proved themselves that they are a people that help us, that they are faithful to us, and that they protect us, and we need to protect them in return, of course.
For sure, because the Druze have been like our brothers all the time. If you check this last war, there is a lot of Druze who died, who fell on the fighting to protect Israel.
The Druze, of course, they're our brothers. They have cast their lot with the people of Israel, and we need to help them in every way possible. I'm not saying that Israel needs to enter with tanks to Syria, no. But to help them in other ways, it's possible to help them.
They serve in the IDF, and they also help us explaining to the world what is the truth, what is truly happening here, because of their loyalty to Israel and because this is what is morally right to do. Because what they have experienced there, it's like their October 7th.
Because they're our citizens. We protect whoever is here, like the hostages, like the soldiers. For this, we're here.
If you want to live with us peacefully, obviously it's possible. And the proof is our relationship with the Druze. But apparently the Arabs, they choosing a wrong way, and they should learn from the Druze to be friends of us and not be against us.